Welcome to the Writers Weekly Podcast, a forum geared toward the writing enthusiast and those who want to make money from their writing. I'm Brian Whidden, managing editor of Writers Weekly, and I'll be your host along with Angela Hoy, the creator of Writers Weekly and president and CEO of BookLocker.com, a full-service book publishing company. Whether you want to learn how to become a professional writer, how to find writing gigs, or even publish your own book, then you come to the right place. We'll be discussing all kinds of topics relating to the writing and publishing industries. Don't forget, you can also click over to writersweekly.com. There, you'll find not only thousands of articles about professional writing, you can also find current paying markets and job listings to help you boost your writing career and even your bottom line. But for now, let's get on to this episode of the Writers Weekly Podcast. And welcome to another episode of the Writers Weekly Podcast. I'm Brian Whidden, and with me is Angela Hoy.
I made it. Am I late?
Yes. Where were you? Angie's decided she's going to come up with creative entries or greetings every time I introduce her because she doesn't like me introducing her. So
Introducing me is fine. It just gets boring when I go, hi.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah.
Wait
till next week. I already have it written down what I'm going to do next week. So.
This week's home office, the Canine Conspiracy. We own 2 dogs. They were rescue dogs from the Humane Society, about 3 years ago?
Yeah.
One's a big black lab named Tank. The other's a little lab and border collie mix named Moon. And I'd say within the first year, Tank learned a trick.
Yeah. We started having a problem where we would, maybe go down to the basement. There's this door in the living room that goes down the basement, and we would open the door, step through, shut the door. A few seconds later, both the dogs would be downstairs in the basement with us.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a problem because then the front door started opening. So either some kind of conspiracy was happening or there was a ghost in the house opening the doors for the dogs.
We had, when we first bought the house, all of our doors had the nice little handle knobs to them. It wasn't the round knob. It was a lever that you could just, you just put your finger on there and push it down, pull the door open. So it made it very easy. Well, we set up a video camera.
Your GoPro, right?
On the basement door because we kept finding Tank in the basement. And we couldn't figure out why because we knew we'd shut that door. Well, sure enough, we found out the Tank learned how to grab a hold of that handle and open that door.
Now, we no longer have that original video. However, we have a new video that took, 10 seconds to record because once you set up the camera and walked away from the closed door, Tank just walked up and opened it.
Well, that was the bedroom door with you in the bedroom, and he wanted to be with you. Once I left the main house, he decided he needed to go in with Mommy.
So it's pretty impressive how he does it. So if you go to writersweekly.com/podcast, click on this episode, there's a link to the video under this episode that shows exactly how Tank magically opens doors all by himself.
So we changed out the basement doorknob and the front door doorknob because he also learned how to let himself out of the house.
He's not allowed without his electronic collar because he likes to chase the mailman.
Yeah, and we changed some other doorknobs. One doorknob that didn't get changed was the office. We at one end of the house we have a spare bedroom. We have my office and a bathroom, and we had problems not necessarily with the office at the time. We had problems with Tank going into the spare bedroom so he could lay on the bed.
Yeah.
Rather than laying on the couch where we don't mind him being, but he'd go in there and stretch out on the bed. So we got a baby/puppy gate, and everybody probably knows what one of those looks like. You put it into a hallway or stairwell or anything, and then you got to unscrew little knobs that press up against the walls and wedge this thing in. The model we have, though, you have to really get those wedged in just right so that it'll close properly. However, one of them wound up punching a hole in our drywall, so I can't get it to close exactly right. It'll kind of latch, but it doesn't. Well, in my office, we keep the cat's food, because if we put the cat's food anywhere else in the house, then the dogs will eat the cat's food.
Mm-hmm.
Well, lately
they started getting fat.
Lately, we've noticed the dogs are getting fatter, and the cat's food is disappearing a lot faster than the cat usually eats.
Yeah.
And the cat wasn't getting any fatter. And
there's a little kitty door that goes into the office.
Yeah, and we thought we had everything kind of sorted out, because dogs don't know how to open a gate that's pretty much closed without any kind of knob or anything to grab onto.
And they can't fit through the kitty door.
Except for Moon figured out how to stick her nose in between the bars of that gate and swing that gate open when Daddy's in the office, and she wants, because she's Daddy's girl. Moon always likes to hang out with me, and if I happen to go through that gate and go into my office without her, she will, within 10 minutes, find her way to that gate, push her nose in between those bars, slide that thing open, even opening in her direction, not just pushing the gate, but pulling it open in her direction to come in and be with Daddy.
And we didn't quite know what was happening with the cat food. We couldn't figure out the gate thing because Moon, she'll go through the gate and it'll close behind her. So it was a whole nother mystery. And it was when you were fishing last week. Nobody was here except me, and I heard that gate open and close because it squeaks a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, Brian's back. I wonder what he forgot. No, both the dogs were working together. Go ahead.
What we've discovered, yes, Moon will open the gate because Tank doesn't know how, and then Tank goes in and he'll open that door because Moon can't open the doorknobs, and they get each other into that room, and then they'll share that cat's food. Poor cat starving to death because he is not getting any food. Those dogs are getting fat.
Yeah, the cat, when the cat bowl's empty, he'll meow and meow and meow, and you go in and check it like, man, Rocky, you're not gaining weight, but man, you're eating like a pig.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to spend a bunch more money getting more doorknobs, figure out a way to tighten up that gate so it without destroying my walls. Something.
Well, it is a canine conspiracy.
It is a definite conspiracy.
I had no idea
that are working against us.
Yeah, I had no idea they were so smart.
They're supposed to love us, but no, they don't obey the rules of the house.
No, it's been never ending.
And they're smart. They don't do it when they know when we're not paying attention, and that's when they do it. They don't do it right in front of us. They wait until.
Even the first time you recorded him opening a door because we were suspicious.
He waited till I left.
He waited until we were out of the room. And the other day when you set it up again, same thing.
He doesn't do it when I'm standing there. Once I leave the house, he's like, okay, time to go sleep in the bedroom with mommy.
And Moon won't open the baby gate unless nobody's around, except Tank. I'm sure Tank's standing behind her.
Well, no, she does it when she knows I'm in the office. She'll do that to come into the office. I'll be in the office with my door open, and then I'll hear that gate open and close, and in walks Moon. Yeah, so
I figure they're just standing there by that gate whispering to each other, ready? Yeah, Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Well, they don't steal the cat food unless we're gone. That's the thing.
That's
if they don't go in there and just start eating cat food, they know they're going to get yelled at for that. So they wait till we disappear. So anyway, so that's home office for this week, the Canine Conspiracy.
And it's always fun.
It's always fun. All right. So on today's episode, we are talking editing and editors. And once again, we have Clayton Jones on the line with us. Clayton was on episode 6 with us before. We talked about how AI is getting writers, students, and even lawyers into trouble. So you can go back to writersweekly.com/podcasts and review that if you'd like. Clayton, how you doing, man?
Doing great. How about you, Brian?
I'm good. So Angie and I know you real well, but the listeners may have forgotten who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Clayton Jones. I live in Chickamauga, Georgia, work in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the University of Tennessee, where I teach English and creative writing. And I'm a freelance editor and editor for the Blue Mountain Review. And I've got a film production company, and I do a lot of screenwriting and really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
What don't you do?
I don't go outside in this heat.
Yeah, no
Oh
kidding.
man, today's kind of brutal.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
I want to mention if anybody wants to go back to episode 6, they can hear the very interesting way in which I met Clayton.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm a musician too. Yeah, yeah. Shameless plug. I do have a show coming up.
Oh, you
I'm a
do?
Oh,
yeah, yeah. In August the 16th at the Wood Shop in Chattanooga.
I'm going to
Yeah,
write that down.
okay. We'll plug that for sure.
Yeah.
So that's a live performance.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm playing with a fella named Ben Torbett, who's got members from you might remember the rock band Sunvolt. He's got
Sunbolt.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they got some members from them, and got some other interesting folks coming. So it's gonna
That'll
be
be fun. Are you playing or singing or both?
yeah. I'm playing my original stuff.
Oh, awesome.
Hey, we may have to
Awesome.
try to work
Clayton
our
is
way out there.
outstanding guitar player
Yeah.
and a musician and also an outstanding singer.
Okay, Angie, I'm going to let you take it away. You and Clayton are the editing experts. I'm just kind of a personality, so I'll jump in when I feel like it. But
Personality.
yeah, yeah.
It's okay.
But it's your
I don't mind editing your writing.
okay.
Clayton has no idea what we're talking about.
You go ahead and get started.
Okay. Clayton, I'm going to ask you a question that Brian asked me in episode 10 when we talked about when I was growing up. What in your childhood led you to become an English professor?
Well, it's funny.
Start way back.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually thinking about that the other day. And I do talk about this in some of my classes. It makes sense to me. Um, there were books around my house. My dad was a speechwriter, and I
I did
remember.
not know that.
Yeah, and I remember him sitting at the kitchen table writing things, and I didn't know what he was doing, but I could tell that whatever the work he was doing was important, was meaningful.
Yeah.
And well, he also wrote songs, and
Hmm.
my uncle was a guitar player, and so there was always music. Well, I started writing songs at some point, and I also had a reverence for writing poetry. I remember in sixth or eighth grade, I won a silly poetry contest.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really weird. I did a satire, or actually, it was an entire parody of what was that poet's name that was so. Oh gosh, the poem was the tree. What was that poet's name? I can't remember right now. Anyways, I did a parody of the poem, and I wrote it about Dan Quayle, which was really funny. But anyways, flash forward in college, I wanted to go to college so I could learn to write better songs. So I studied poetry and figured out that the song lyrics I was writing were actually poems, and wound up in graduate school at the MFA program at Georgia State, where I studied with David Bottoms, who's also a musician. So it's a combination of things, just being around writers, and just kind of having a supportive family where creativity was
It's
part.
clearly in your blood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Were you thinking of Joyce Kilmer, Trees poem?
It might be
Maybe,
Joyce.
maybe not. I
Remember,
don't know.
we
I
can
just
edit this.
Googled it.
We'll figure it out and we'll put a link under the episode. But okay. Uh yeah, all that you really had that in your blood. You had the writing talent and the poetry talent and it runs in your family. So, oh, God bless you. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I had some really great professors at University of Georgia. Coleman Barks was a mentor to me, and still is. He's actually still in Athens in his late 80s. I got to see him a few months ago. So yeah, yeah. I'm pretty blessed to have those kinds of folks in my life.
Yeah. So you were doing poetry and you were doing songwriting and in the MFA program and okay, how did you become an English professor?
As soon as I got out of graduate school, a former teacher of mine knew I was looking for a job and helped me get my first teaching position at Shorter University.
Wow. And now you're at University of Tennessee.
Yep. Yeah, taught at a bunch of different places, and eventually wound up where I like to call home. My
Yeah.
My family is from the Chattanooga area, so
Okay. All right. So so you're teaching English and you're playing guitar and still writing songs and doing all those other things that you do. I don't know how you find enough time in the day. And you're married and you have a daughter, right?
yep, yep. My
And your
stepdaughter, yep.
stepdaughter, and she's in college right now. She just started what, last year?
She is finishing up her second year, and she's actually an English major and a journalism.
That's
So
incredible.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She's doing great, and
That's awesome.
uh, she's going to law school. It looks like so.
Oh boy.
uh,
So
definitely a strong writer, you know.
yeah, well, we know where she got it from. So now you're an English professor, and then you branch off and you start offering editing services to authors.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? Were you reading so many bad term papers that your eyeballs were bleeding and you just had to figure out a way to make the
Yeah,
world a better place?
exactly. You know, it goes back even further than that. I started as an editor in high school. I edited the literary magazine in high school, and
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
I edited the newspaper at one of the colleges I went to. And then and so I dabbled in that. And then, after, well, during graduate school, I was editor for a poetry journal and another poetry journal or two here and there. But then eventually I thought, I need to be doing freelance editing. And so that I think I really started getting into that. Let's see, this is 2025.
Yeah.
yes. And welcome.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here in 2025 because I could have sworn that this was about 2010. That's probably when I started doing some freelance editing. It was about 15 years ago.
Okay. Now, so you're so now you're offering editing work, and I want to point out that when you and I met, I checked out a few of the books that you had edited, and we started referring booklocker.com authors to you who needed different types of editing services. And we have received nothing but rave reviews about your work. Everybody loves your work, and they talk about how personable you are, and how friendly you are, and how professional you are, and what an amazing job you do. So, the day that I met you was a true blessing for our authors. In fact, when authors are considering whether to use me or you to edit their books, they almost always choose you. And when they choose me, it's because it's a chick, and she just wants another chick to edit her book. And you know what? That's something we should talk about today.
Right.
Um, Before we get into the nitty gritty about what's involved with editing a book, why sometimes authors get sticker shock because, it takes a lot of work to do that. I want to ask you, I'm going to catch off guard here. Tell me about the most problematic book editing job you ever had.
Yeah, I will. I remember it very clearly. And
Was it one of ours?
no, it wasn't one of yours. It was one with another company that I worked for. Oh, probably, yeah, get about 10 years ago, probably. And this, and it was the first, it was the first one I did for that company. And it turned into 9 months of HE double hockey sticks because one, it seemed like I remember that all of the comments that I made ended up being paraphrased or directly inserted into the text.
Oops. How did
That,
how
that,
did
didn't,
that happen?
that didn't make any sense.
Huh.
The writer had zero reverence for the process.
Mm,
Now, we were doing a comprehensive edit, which included a pass doing a content edit or developmental edit, chapter by chapter, a line,
mm-hmm.
which is chapter by chapter, and then a proofread, which I was gonna do myself. But during the content development stage, focusing on chapter one, but the writer wanted to go to chapter 10 and make changes, and take chapter 10 and rearrange the entire manuscript each time we handed it back and forth. It was
Oh.
a never ending, it was
Mm.
absolutely a never ending process.
And
And so at
you
one
there's
point,
no way you made enough money to pay for all your time on that job. Am I correct?
right, right.
Yeah.
And so at me being the new employee, I eventually had to go to the chief editor and say, "We've got a problem."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, we do."
Well, and you probably have changed your processes since then. When I edit a book, I edit the whole thing. I insert comments, I make all the corrections, and I send the whole thing back to the author. But back in the day, for example, when I had a contract with St. Martin's Press, the editor would send me one chapter at a time. And I would, and she actually, from what I remember, she lost her job after my book because it turned into such a mess because she would hand it back with more errors. But I wish that she had just sent me the whole book and I could have, made questions from that. But it was a year of
Mm.
editing that book. It was a nightmare. So, and that wasn't my fault.
Yeah. Well, for me, the process depends on what level of editing we're doing. And,
Mm-hmm.
for me, a comprehensive edit includes the developmental edit, the content edit. Some people call it content edit, some folks call it developmental edit, and then a line edit, and then a proofread. On the first two passes, if we're doing all three things, we will go chapter by chapter the first couple of times.
Okay.
But because, and I had this conversation with a client the other day, wanting, or a potential client wanting to know, well, what is the process like? And so I described that process of handing each chapter back and forth because it gets read multiple times, and he wanted to know, well, what about the plot? I'm not sure what I need to do right now about the plot. And I said, well, that's exactly why we're going through it the way we are, because we're looking for those kinds of things. And so for me, and I talk about this a lot in my English classes too, my writing classes, that with any kind of editing or revision, the things that get missed are the things that you weren't looking for.
Oh, yep. Good point. Good point. Well, I just finished working on a project that uh, I actually talked to you about this last night, Clayton, that when an editor is looking at a manuscript and is going to give a quote to the writer, they shouldn't look at the first three chapters. They should look at the last three chapters.
Yeah,
Because what I have found is as the manuscript goes along, and it's not in every case, but sometimes the author starts to get lazy with punctuation and spelling and other things, past tense mixed with present tense. And so as I was going through this manuscript, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's taking me 10 minutes to edit one paragraph. There's that many errors in it. And I'm talking backward quotation marks, everything from that to what really bothers me, the mixing past tense and present tense, and I got to fix all that. But that's probably the one I just finished is the most problematic job I've ever had.
that's an
Now,
enormous.
so you mentioned the different types of editing. So let's go through those. So first, let's talk about developmental/content editing. Can you tell listeners what that means?
It's quite literal. We are developing the content. In a book of fiction, for example, we're looking for, well, maybe we need more dialogue. Or actually, let me back up. The absolute first step is to look at the arrangement of the book. Do you need 12 chapters? Do we need to does the 12th chapter need to come first? The big basic questions.
Mm,
But then as we go through chapter by chapter, we're fleshing out descriptions, making sure that each chapter is grounded. Basically, we're adding and subtracting content,
okay.
making large global changes. Looking at the big brushstrokes that form it. In that, yeah, we'll look at plot, we'll look at structure, we'll look at character development, we'll look at all those kinds of things. And yeah, so that's kind of how the developmental edit works.
Okay. And then next is line editing, correct?
Yes, yes, and that's when we look at things sentence by sentence and make sure that
Every
each
line.
sentence, yeah, every line. look at every line and make and that's when most of the grammar errors and things get sorted out. Not to say that you don't look at any of the content issues if there are any at that point. That can happen too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the focus there is working out the kinks with grammar and sentence level mistakes.
Now, explain to the listeners what's the difference between line editing and proofreading.
Line editing, you get in and you really tease the meaning out of the sentences.
Hmm.
Where
That sounds
with
kind of fun.
That's what I've never heard of it put that way, but okay.
Well,
Yeah,
it's Clayton we're talking to.
that's interesting. Yeah, okay.
but then with proofreading, it that's just the final read through where you double check the commas, make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, comprehensive editing is what? All of the above.
That's all three together. Yep.
Yeah. So authors can purchase specific types of editing, or they can purchase comprehensive editing, meaning the editor's going to do everything.
Yes.
Now, of course, that depends on the editor. I'm going to bring this up right now. I had it later. And we've mentioned this several times on the website on writersweekly.com and in our podcast. The plethora of foreign, non-native English speaking, quote, editors that go by English names that are being promoted by the scam consortium we've been exposing on our website. And these authors are, paying, hundreds to thousands of dollars and getting a manuscript back that is a complete mess. So when an author needs an editor, they need to make darn sure that editor is actually a native English speaker, or they're in for big trouble. And chances are they're going to pay the money and never get a manuscript back anyway. And all the editors we have at marketplace.writersweekly.com/editors have been vetted by us, and like again I said, Clayton's by far the most requested. All right, Clayton, you wrote an article for Writers Weekly about how to choose an editor. And I'm going to go through some of the points so you can get more in depth with those. And the first point you made was your editor is not a magician. What does that mean?
Well, I think it has to do with expectations, because so many times I get writers that think that they hand the manuscript over and a few days later they get the manuscript back and this book is perfect. It
Yeah.
has
There was our first mistake, because I think they're going to get that manuscript a few days later.
right. I mean, and
Point, yeah.
that's true, and that it has to do with expectations.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. So but that's not how this works. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into this, not just for the editor, but for the writer too.
So the author thinks that they're going to hand you the manuscript, and realistically, maybe 3-4 weeks later, sorry, not months, or depending on how big the book is, even longer, they're expecting to not get any emails, not get any phone calls. They're just going to get their manuscript back. It's going to be perfect, and it's going to be a New York Times bestseller because it's so awesome.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's an unrealistic expectation.
Let me mention the reality that I see as a layperson sitting back and watching my wife edit books. Is a person I think can read a page of a book in, let's say, 5 to 7 minutes, depending on the size of the, all that. You can even write a page of a book in, say, 15, 20 minutes if you don't have any writer's block or you're not having to really think that. When you guys are editing a page, you're reading that thing word for word, and maybe reading each sentence again to make sure it makes sense. And then you got to go in and find where your corrections need to be. And then you have to go back after you made all those corrections and make sure all those corrections were correct before you move on to the next page. So you're taking how long to just go through a page of a book?
The book that I just finished, it was taking me about 10 minutes per paragraph.
Per paragraph.
And these were not big paragraphs because there were so many errors. And again, the punctuation was the big thing. And then, so I would go in and make the corrections, and then I would read it again, and decide if I needed to make more corrections. And I would read that paragraph a third time to make sure nothing else needed to change before I went to the next paragraph. Now, Clayton, how do you do it?
Well, it depends on the level of editing. It sounds to me like on that particular edit that you just did, Angie, that's one that yeah, you did three or four passes at a
Oh,
time.
absolutely. Yeah, that's why it's taken so long. I have almost memorized the entire manuscript.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah, so this idea about the sorcery and the magic fix and all, the editing process is a collaborative effort to
Hmm.
eh, like I said, depending upon the level of which level of editing you're doing. And
Hmm.
you know I think as far as expectations go, another thing that clients they expect to get a 100% error-free manuscript.
Well,
But
you can't even pick up a traditionally published book and find a book with zero errors in it.
no, you
It's
can't. You
there
can't.
are thousands and thousands and thousands of characters in that file, and the chances of you getting even a book edited by the best editor in the world, there's still going to be something that some reader or you is going to say, "Oh, I don't think that comma belongs there."
Hmm.
Yeah.
But it's going to be so much better than it was before you hired the editor.
Well, that is
Hiring a good Go ahead.
yeah. And that's it. Improvement, vast improvement
Yeah.
is as close to perfection as we can get. I've got some weird statistics about errors that appear in
Oh, goody.
and so the stats are kind of like this on a just say a 100,000 word manuscript. The best, and this is it depends on what source you read, but the best editors can only catch between 88 and 92% of the errors. Now I
Yeah.
have heard as high as 95. I've heard 95 before.
Yeah.
So you figure in a 100,000 word manuscript, let's just say 95,000, not 95.
95,000 words are perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So five there's 5,000 words in there that are going to have mistakes in them. Now,
Or they're mistakes that, you know, uh, interpretation wise, some people think, oh, that's a mistake, and some people think, oh, that's not a mistake. The
yeah,
reality is the general reader is not going to notice those mistakes at all.
that's true.
It's
True
the
too.
anal editors that are reading your book. They're going to go, oh, yeah. But I actually think 5,000 errors in a 100,000 word book is that's kind of high.
Yeah,
Just to,
no, what I think is that out of that 5,000, you'll be able to find errors in that 5% of the book.
Oh, okay, I get it. So in that 5,000 words, there's going to be some mistakes. There's not necessarily going to be 5,000 mistakes.
Right, right, right.
Okay, now I understand.
And
Okay.
in my experience, there's always going to be a handful of errors, that's when things that a human just missed for whatever reason. Fatigue is one, and that could be it, or humans just miss things sometimes. But that's where you go back to that thing about expectations, and that brings me to this: is that ultimately the author has to be they've got to be in on this too. You know that's why they need to read their book again after they get it back from their proofreader. You know.
Yeah, and I'm sure almost all of them do that. Um, Also, the reason that authors make so many mistakes in their own books is because they've spent weeks, months, years writing it, rewriting it, editing it, re-editing it. At a certain point in time, there's a psychological phenomenon that we should name where
Yeah.
you don't see the errors anymore.
because you already know what that next sentence is going to say. You wrote it.
It's like ingrained in your brain already, and you're not going to notice a missing comma or a word that's not correct or anything. The same with editing. When an editor goes through a manuscript two, three, four times or more, they're also going to stop seeing everything because their brain already knows what's coming next. And so the more you go through the manuscript, the more difficult it gets to make it 100% correct. However, if you hire a professional editor, that speaks English and that's trained, um, your book is going to be so much better than it was when you handed it to the editor. And that's the most important thing.
I think I've heard this. Is it called word blindness?
I'm going to have to Google that.
I have heard a term for that before. I can't remember, but it's some kind of blindness.
Okay. I'm going to Google that and put a
Yeah,
link under the episode. And then you're your best editor, at least to a point. Can you explain that to everybody?
yeah, yeah. That means that you know that your manuscript is ready for an editor after you have edited it to the point where you're absolutely sick of it.
Oh, I love that.
When you can't edit it anymore.
That's great advice. Great advice. Uh,
And this is related to the first step too. The magic sorcery kind of thing. Handing a first draft to an editor is a mistake because the editor is only going to get you. I mean, are you really going to get a professional book at the end of editing a first draft? Probably not. It's not developed enough. There's no way. There's just no.
Actually, if you're handing an editor the first draft of your book, you're basically hiring a ghostwriter,
That's right.
and that's going to cost you a lot more money than editing. So yeah, that's very good advice. Uh, your book must have a good foundation.
It means that you have gone through your own kind of content edit and that you do have well, for one, and this is something I do talk with clients about. You can write a book that is marketable, which
Yeah.
means you have a good concept. Check the boxes. Do you have some good characters? Do you have a good content? Do you have a good character arc? Do you have a compelling story? Do you have the foundation? Do you have an actual plot? Do you have a beginning, middle, and end? Do you have all those things? So yeah, yeah, you have to have that foundation.
For somebody that doesn't know this, can you describe character arc? Because I've not heard that
I was
one.
going to ask him that to
Yeah.
explain that too.
Yeah, when you look at the character's life in the beginning and you draw an arc to the not a linear line from beginning to end, but you see the character change.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So that you
Yeah.
call it
Yeah.
you call it an arc because it's not a linear progression, but a more timeless kind of
So it
idea.
kind of, I guess, for the start of the story, you're at that low point, and then you build them up and come to the conflicts and the climaxes and
Yep.
the meat and potatoes of the story, and then it starts winding it down as they settle into the conclusion of the story, I guess.
To who they turn into,
Yeah.
who that character
Okay.
turns into.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is very technical stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's why editors are so incredibly important to authors, professional editors, and why the process is not inexpensive.
Yeah.
It's not, because professional editors are highly trained, they have lots of experience, and it is not a quick process.
And they're digging in and doing something that most people really don't want to do at a level that they don't want to do it. I mean, this has got to be some tedious work.
It is tedious work. Yeah. It sometimes I just want to throw a screwdriver in my eyeball. Uh a long time ago, I edited a book for a woman who had a dyslexia.
Mm.
Um, that was rough, but it was a great story. I mean, it was a great story.
Yeah.
It just took a lot of wrangling to get all those words in a coherent way to.
Sure.
But yeah, she did great. Yeah. Uh, I like this one. Your editor is your friend, not your enemy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're on the same team, pal.
Yeah.
You know, I do have one project in mind to illustrate this. I had a writer that told me after I edited his first chapter that if it was okay with him, he was going to disagree with me. And I said, that's fine. You can disagree with me all you want.
Hmm.
Which is, that does bring up another big question about, well, what happens if you don't agree with your editor's suggestions? Well, you probably ought to consider your editor's suggestions first. Like really, really understand where they're coming from.
And that's why you hired an editor in the first place, for their expertise and knowledge. And
Yeah,
so I recently had an author, I edited the book, and he then put it through Grammarly and said, Grammarly didn't agree with you, but I did the research and you did it right. Grammarly did it wrong.
yeah.
So you're
Surprise,
going to have
surprise.
some authors depending on some kind of software to try to, see, oh, catch you making this mistake or the other. But a highly trained human editor is going to be far better than pretty much any software program out there.
Well, that's the difference between a human using reason, experience, training, and logic
Yeah,
versus a computer that's using ones and zeros.
true.
Does X equal Y, or does it not equal Y?
Right.
Plain and simple. And
Yeah.
if X doesn't equal Y, then it's a no go.
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't apply to
Software,
all things in life.
the software doesn't have discernment.
Yeah.
Your editor does. And that being the case, yeah, we're on the same team here. Your editor has this ability to reason in a way that the software, or you know what this reminds me of too? That what you were mentioning, Angie, about Grammarly and Grammarly suggestions and all that. Well, and this might be a pet peeve, but when writers say, "Well, my spouse read this and they said XYZ," or my beta readers who are probably more family members, that that that's a slippery slope,
I,
folks.
I,
My mother said it was a great book.
My
I got to
mom said it
interject
was
it.
the best book she ever read.
Uh-huh. And you
Then you
messed
know
it
what?
up.
Right, right. Well,
I gotta bring something up.
yeah,
Uh, this weekend is our 24-hour short story contest, summer 24-hour short story contest. This Saturday,
4 hour short story contest.com.
starts at noon. But I really do have something funny to say. We get sour grapes emails, one or two every contest, and almost every one of them, the email says, "My mom said my story was better than the first place winner."
yeah. Oh gosh.
Uh-huh. Okay, so your editor's your friend, not your enemy. And when I have an author say, "Hey, I think this isn't correct or that isn't correct," I just pull it up, Google it. You can find the style guides and everything, and say, "I'm sorry, dear author, but you're incorrect." And here's a link to show that it was done correctly. So,
Yeah, yeah. I agree with the style guide.
yeah,
The style guide. Go to the style guide. Man, I had one not too long ago. There was a toss up about, well, do I use cardinal numbers for military units? But Google said not to, Google said to use the Roman numerals. Well, that's Google. But if you
yeah.
go to the Chicago Manual of Style, it clearly says this is how you do it.
Yeah, I've had the whole Google AI thing that is taking over everything right now. You Google anything and Google gives you the answer first, and what it does, it's going in and sweeping a bunch of websites
Yeah.
and pulling up information that is completely incorrect. For example, I was researching one of the scammers, and their first paragraph is, "This company is unreliable because so many people complain about this, that, or the other." And then I keep reading, and it's a completely different company.
Uh,
It pulled up the wrong company.
Yeah.
So you can't trust Google's AI that's going on. Another thing Brian and I talked about, completely off topic, is that's popping up above Google's advertisers now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what incentive do people have to click on Google's advertisers? That's a whole subject for another day. But anyway, this is one of my favorites. Don't ruin your editor's work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when you have been through this long, arduous process with your editor, and then the writer decides, oh well, I need to make some more changes before I give it to the publisher.
And what happens when they do that?
They insert the exact same brand of errors that your editor spent countless hours getting out of there.
Exactly. So they insert the same. So typically, when you're editing a manuscript, you will see the same types of errors over and over again. And it's because the author didn't know, wasn't trained in, editing, doesn't know. So they just had their own style of where to put commas and their own style of how to do dialogue. And then so you give them back this beautiful, clean manuscript, and you scrunch your fist up when you hit the send button because you know what's going to happen in almost every case. And as far as, my authors are concerned, they just can't help themselves. They have to go in and read it one more time and make more changes. And then there's errors in the manuscript all over again. It's like unvacuuming your carpet.
Yeah.
And it drives me insane. And I don't know what you do, but for this very reason, because I tell you it happens all the time, I do not allow authors to credit me as an editor in their book because I know what's going to happen. They're going to insert errors and they're not going to send it back to me because they know I'll get very upset and have to charge more money. And I don't want to be responsible for those errors. So you will never find my name in an author's book as an editor because I know what happened. And I bet you see the same thing all the time.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I see that. What I tell my writers is, look, when you get the deliverable, you should put on your white gloves because
Oh,
this is clean. It's done. Read it, and if you do find anything that's questionable, feel free to ask questions. But man, don't start over. Don't start
now
over.
you recently had an author who uh, you edited the entire book,
Mhm.
and the author made so many changes, thousands and thousands. The author hired you to edit the book an entire second time, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's and you know, once you read every paragraph 3 or 4 times while you're doing the editing process or more, if you have to do it all over again, that's just, I don't know about you, I just don't like to repeat things I've already done.
Mm.
It's like it's
Yeah.
like doing creating a spreadsheet for something. You'd spend a couple hours and then oops, your computer shuts off or something. You have to start all over. Oh, there's nothing worse.
Yeah, I think and that has happened a few different times, and that it's disappointing. It's very disappointing because usually after they've gone back and made those arbitrary changes, well, the book was better than it was. It was better the first time usually.
Yes. Yep. Eh,
Usually those kinds of changes are parentheticals. They're just extra things that you didn't need to begin with. Oh,
Mm.
I wanted to get that in there syndrome. Yeah, that's what that is.
and that's an example of possibly an author who did not give you the final draft of their manuscript
Right. Yeah,
without telling
they
you.
do the draft. And if that if yeah, that's likely what it was. You
Yeah.
got a first draft, or at least a very early one.
Now, this is a tricky one. How do you respond to authors who basically order you, do not change my voice?
Well, that again, that goes back to this idea of collaboration. That an editor shouldn't change a writer's voice. A professional editor is not going to. They're not going to.
Yeah.
That's the whole job is to improve the work and in such a way that you enhance the writer's voice and you enhance their vision. And that's tricky, and I do think that probably Well, I mean, I don't know how often that happens. I mean, I know that I don't change the voice. I mean, we
Yeah,
could get
I don't do that either. But I've heard that some editors do. Brian brought up a person we knew a long time ago who was a professional editor who could not stop herself from basically completely rewriting the entire book. And she charged
yeah.
an arm and a leg. And authors got very upset because they would get a manuscript back that was completely unrecognizable. And she ended up going out of business
Yeah.
because she just couldn't. I mean, there are some people that are that anal, you know. It
She would basically tell them to completely remake characters. It's like, well, this character shouldn't be this. It should be that.
and she
They
wasn't
shouldn't
correct. And
be a man. It should be a woman. It should be this, and it's like, wait a minute, this is the author's character, not yours.
right, she wanted to completely change everything
Yeah.
about every book, and well, didn't bode well for her. But yeah, so
Well,
yeah, you don't change the voice. I don't change the voice. Go ahead, Clayton.
yeah, and it shouldn't have gone well for that particular editor because they weren't working with the author's vision and the author's voice. I
Oh,
mean
there was
that
some narcissistic thing going on there, I
yeah,
tell you.
there's something deep seated for sure. So yeah, something, but yeah, yeah. I usually tell my clients you don't have to worry about that with me. I mean, I'm here to support your vision,
Yeah.
and so
Now let's talk about. Did you have anything else to bring up about editing? Because I got one more topic to bring up after that.
yeah, yeah. The whole thing about the going back and making changes and the expectations.
Mm,
One thing that I do and I know you do this too, is that you track your changes in Microsoft Word,
hmm
and that's an important thing to do is to use that tracking feature. But more important than that is when authors skimp on the technology and use Google Docs instead of Microsoft Word. I mean, you probably know more than me what kinds of disasters can occur.
So disasters galore, not only with the editing process where they can't track the changes or see what's going on, but Google Docs can, because we also do, formatting and design. We can send a Microsoft Word file to an author that looks beautiful. They open it. We tell them only use Microsoft Word. They open it in Google Docs, and they can open a Microsoft Word file in Google Docs, and when we get it back, we're like, what happened to all the formatting? Page numbers are gone, the headers and footers are gone. I mean, it just
Mm.
so yeah, that it's really important also that you use the same program that your editor's using, and most are using Microsoft Word because most
Yeah.
people have Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we should probably explain that when we turn on track changes, this like window column, vertical column opens on the right, and you can see every single change that the editor made and comments. And I know Clayton and I both put comments in there for authors like yesterday when I was almost finished that book. There was one sentence I could not figure out how to fix it.
Mm.
It didn't make sense. It's like she wrote it and then changed it at some point, and it was it was an incomplete sentence. I didn't quite know what she wanted to say, so I highlighted it and I inserted. I said, "This is an incomplete sentence and it doesn't make sense. It needs to be reworded."
Yeah.
And I couldn't reword it myself. So that's what track changes is great. If you look at all the track changes, it can get confusing because there are so many, but you can also turn off track changes on your end and see a completely clean manuscript and then make notes, any notes that that you have for the editor.
Yeah.
One of the things I do in a comprehensive edit, the very first thing that I do with my clients is I have a Zoom meeting, and whether are familiar with the track changes feature or not, we go back through it.
Mm,
In addition to talking about the big picture of the manuscript and making sure the visions are aligned. I mean,
yeah,
I think, and that goes back to the expectation factor of what are we doing here? What's in the contract? Well, these are the different levels that are here, but anyways, I
yeah,
digress.
yeah. And And remember, if you guys and gals need a professional editor, most people request Clayton. If you really want to work with me, well, yeah, give me a contact me. But writersweekly.com, I'm sorry, marketplace.writersweekly.com/editors or writersweekly.com, click on the contact us button. It'll go to me or Brian, say, hey, hook me up with Clayton, and we'll make that happen.
I've
Go
got a
ahead.
question.
Okay.
So this is for both of you. Help me understand what gives you the confidence to step in and work on somebody's book and critique how they've built a character, how they've built the story, the structure, and all this when this is a work of creativity. And what I mean by that, I guess, is because it's one thing to say, okay, this needs a comma, a period should go at the end of this sentence, capitalization here, this and that. There are rules for all of that. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming there are no rules to how to write a fiction story or build a character. Or is there a reference you go to?
Well,
So,
I can.
I can look and see if somebody's grammar is proper or their spelling and all that. But I would have trouble, I think, just personally going in and saying, well, wait a minute, you're telling this story, but it's not right. I just, does that make sense?
Well, sometimes you have to be sensitive because you don't want to make the author upset or feel like they're being insulted, but you really have to be honest with them. Um, for example, the last book I was working on, hope that author isn't listening to this podcast. um, when you start reading a book that you were hired to edit, you notice errors. You even notice, even if you're not doing fact checking, that's a whole nother thing. Um, you'll notice if you're really paying attention to the book, you'll notice the facts are off. So in this particular book, I was, reading along, doing the editing and everything, and something clicked in my brain, which would probably click in most readers' brains. She had the year sequence off. She had talked about something that happened in 2000, and it actually happened in 2012. It was a big thing that I
that
knew
is a
about,
big
right?
gap. Yeah.
And so she said, it was 5 years later, but it was actually 11 years. It just caught my brain, caught my mind. And I inserted a comment and I said, we need to work on the dates here because something's off. The same thing with characters. Is the character, did she get the age wrong of the character? Did she get some other fictional factual thing off? So as an editor, I notice those things. But those types of things, readers are also going to notice. They might not notice a punctuation error, but they're going to notice a problem in the storyline.
Mhm.
So that's that, and bringing that up with the author is usually it's more or less it's like a type of fact checking, but you just catch it. Clayton,
Do you make biscuits, Brian?
I sure do.
Do
I make some of the best darn biscuits you've ever had.
here.
Just ask my wife.
Yep.
Yep. Go ahead.
what makes your biscuits so good?
Love.
Well,
Uh, I mean, to me, I make them right. I could make the argument that that's the thing. My biscuits may taste great to me. Somebody else is going to make them differently, and that they're the best biscuits in the world to them. And
I like.
who's to say mine are not good and theirs are good, or vice versa?
Well, that's a good point.
But
I like
let me let Clayton go.
like it when they have honey on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But let me. So Clayton, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, where I was going with that is,
Yeah.
I think we all know what at least those that eat biscuits know what a good biscuit should taste
Biscuit's
like.
supposed to taste like.
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
you. Yeah.
I don't really make biscuits from scratch. I can
Mhm.
make them out of the can, but the last time I made them from scratch, they were hard as rocks. And so,
Hardtack
yeah, that's what it was
Yeah,
like.
you just make it a hardtack. That's all.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
mean,
different kind of biscuit.
you could throw those suckers like rocks. You know?
weapons.
Yeah, but for me, what makes me a good editor is that I'm a good reader, and
Yeah.
it really goes back to what Angie's saying. The I was born with an attention span, without an attention span. I don't have one.
I know how you feel.
I
Trust
use
me.
that I use that as a superpower because when I'm
Yeah,
reading something, if I'm distracted by it, that
that
100%
it's
of the
good.
time, it means that there's something wrong with it.
Oh, I got you.
That's a
I got you.
very
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm that way is if
distract
I'm
me, it's
reading
going
a
to
book,
distract everyone else.
Say that
say
again.
that again.
If it distracts me, it's going to distract everyone else.
Yeah, I'm one of those that if I'm reading a book and I catch just a grammatical error or something, that will mess up the reading experience for me because now I'm thinking about that grammatical error. I'm not thinking about the storyline or the characters, and I may have to go back and read again just to catch what I wasn't paying attention to because I was worried about. Man, they shouldn't have put that
I've
that
never
pronoun in front of that adjective. That.
I've never worded it that way, but Clayton's exactly right.
Yeah.
I get the same something. It's like a lightning bolt. Oop, there's something wrong, and then
Yeah.
reread it and figure out exactly what's wrong. But there's definitely something wrong. So
That makes sense because the way I was kind of looking at it is, you know, what I think is a great fictional story, Clayton may not think is a great fictional story. Angie may think it's a mediocre fictional story. Um,
well, how an editor, when a good editor is reading and gets stopped, dead stop, they know something's wrong. They have to find what's wrong and they have to figure out how to fix it. An author who's, again, read their own story numerous times isn't even going to see that editor anymore.
yeah.
I also want to point out something I wanted to say earlier is having a good editor for your book is the difference between possibly getting 1-star reviews and 5-star reviews.
Ah,
And I mean, seriously, having a good editor can make your book. Not having an editor could break your book.
yeah.
I think the best way to answer this question about you've mentioned, well, this is a creative work, and well, how do you know if this is good or bad? Writing is a craft,
Yeah.
and a craft requires skill. I mean, whether you're painting a house, building a house, painting a painting, think about all those kinds of things. Writing is the same way. So your editor ought to be the master craftsman and
Mm-hmm.
should be able to tell whether your writing is good or bad. And the
Mm-hmm.
way that the most basic way that you can tell if a piece of art in general is good or bad is if it's succeeding in its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yeah.
it's full of distractions, then there's no way it's going to succeed in that purpose.
Hmm.
Now, I had one more thing to bring up. Not only do you offer all those different levels of professional editing and you're fantastic at it, you also offer editorial reviews. So, do you want to
Yeah,
explain to the readers what that is?
yeah.
Listeners.
There's a couple of ways of doing that. One, I'll go through the manuscript and give them a breakdown of the different aspects of their manuscript. The how the characters are, what's the concept like, that kind of thing. But I'll also do consulting, where we do a couple hours of usually an hour or two of a Zoom session going over the manuscript, to do that review.
Okay.
That usually is the best approach. The writers can get their questions answered more fully that way.
Yeah, and again, if you want to talk to Clayton about working on your book, writersweekly.com/contact, and either Brian or I will lead you right to him.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, we're gonna need to wrap it up for today because Brian needs to make some biscuits.
Yeah, I'm coming to get the biscuits, Brian.
There you go. All right. All right. Well, that wraps it up for this episode of the Writers Weekly podcast. Hey, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask us about editing, if there's anything we didn't cover, go ahead and send that to us because this is a subject that we can do another episode on and delve in deeper if we need to. But we'd love to hear your comments on this. If you got a book you'd like to publish, check out booklocker.com where we've got a 25 plus year reputation and we're not scammers. So booklocker.com. And don't forget, next week is
This coming Saturday.
This coming Saturday. Today is Sunday as we record this.
The 19th.
So the 19th
of July.
Give them all the
2025, not 2022 or whatever year Clayton thought it was.
Starts at noon Central time, noon Central. But go to 24-hour contest. I'm sorry, 24-hour short story contest.com. All one word.
Clayton's one of the judges.
And Clayton's one of the judges.
Well, that might scare people.
That's right. If he doesn't think your biscuits are right, you're done.
No sour grapes in those biscuits, Brian.
Hey, right. My mom says that.
my mom says mine are the best biscuits. All right, and with that, we are going to get out of here. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the Writers Weekly Podcast.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.